everyone, and welcome back to my channel. It's Fatmata here from Traditionally Inspired Meaningful Art, and I wanted to do a quick sewing catch up with you to let you know what I've been making this past week and also show you a few of the new things that I have in. I think last we spoke, I shared that I was going to a conference this week, and I am like just getting back from that conference. So I want to show you some of the things that I packed to go. I did not take photos of like me in them every day, but I wanted to show you the things that I packed and also my newest make and my plans, sort of moving ahead, more immediate plans, and a few things that I picked up because I stopped by a thrift store while I was out by Chesapeake Bay. So I'm really excited about that too. All right, so what I am wearing is my newest make. What I'm currently wearing is actually Simplicity 1108, and this is a Mrs. Kimono pattern. I ended up going with View C here, and as you can see, here are the line drawings. So it has a couple of variations that you can choose from, and I really wanted View C. For the fabric that I had, which is this lovely, I think it's like a cotton poly sort of blend fabric. I picked this up last year at G Street Fabrics in, I think, the President's Day sale, and I just fell in love with the bold colors, really big stripes. And last week, I think I showed you that I had ironed a number of different fabrics that I was really excited to start working with. But leading up to me leaving for the conference Saturday morning, I knew I wasn't going to have time to work on the one thing that I had cut out, which is a new Simplicity tier dress pattern, because there's so much gathering. So instead I pivoted and I just went to my stash and sort of looked at fabrics that made me happy. And this is one of those fabrics. And I had just a little over 2 yards of this fabric, and I was trying to think of what I could make that I could actually finish. So this was, I think, Thursday night when I had this brilliant idea. And I thought to myself, I really want to give this Simplicity 1108 pattern another go. I've used it once last year with a beautiful sort of burnout velvet fabric that I had. And I wanted to try it again in the long length. So for the Simplicity S1108, the hacks that I wanted to do to it were really inspired by an abaya that my cousin had gifted me from Saudi Arabia. And it's this gorgeous abaya here. So this is the sleeve of it. So it has this gorgeous sort of lace detail that they added to the sleeve. But it's just this nice like oatmeal-y, feels like a cotton linen sort of blend fabric. So it had that sort of collar detail here that they added on all the way around the front. They also had poppers, like snaps on it, so you can close it. So I might add that to some of the other ones. So this abaya has just a grown-on sleeve. It doesn't have a seam here for the sleeve. But I do like having the seam for the sleeve because you might be able to get it out of less fabric. I think when you do things that are grown on, it does allow for a bit more waste. So it works for me in the S1108 that it has a different sleeve piece, and it allowed me to play with the stripe a little bit as well. But this was the inspiration, which is how I got the idea to do the, the band for the front, as well as to elongate the sleeve. So I measured the sleeve from this abaya fabric, from this abaya, and noticed that, okay, I might want to add, let's say, 8 more inches to get about the similar length. I also measured from the shoulder to the bottom hem of this abaya, and then was able to figure out what the length was that I wanted to make sure that the ones that I was making was also going to be fully maxi length. So if you have something in your closet that you really enjoy and that you like, and you want to borrow some of the design lines, and you can find a pattern that will get you almost there, you could always use that and then fill in the gaps to adapt it to what you want. So I cut the back out on the fold. I just omitted that center back seam altogether. I didn't think it was necessary. For the front pieces, I added some sort of width. I graded out at the sides from a small at the top all the way out to about a large at the very bottom. Also wanting to sort of maximize as much of the fabric use as possible. I didn't want to have a lot of scraps left over. As you can see, I left a substantial hem. I did put some knit interfacing, like a very lightweight interfacing for the hems, just so it could have a really crisp press here, and I just went ahead and top stitched that down. I also added to the front like a front band here. In the pattern, they would just have you flip it in by 3/8 of an inch and then stitch that down. I remember I didn't quite love that the last time I made this, so I wanted to have a band on the front. So I believe I cut this out at 3 inches wide, and I just made long 3-inch strips of the fabric. I wanted to kind of play with the stripes so you could actually tell that there was a band here, and I really love how that turned out. At the neckline, I went ahead and took that in just a little bit. You can kind of see that little V there, just so it sits nicely along the neck. I hope you can see that. I don't know what you can see actually. I also added a belt to this so I could cinch it in. I do think that I made the belt maybe a little bit too wide. I really, again, was trying to maximize and use up as much of the fabric as possible. So I cut it out using my quilter's rulers, which I think is about like 6 inches. So this is quite deep. I think it is about, yeah, like 3 inches. So yeah, I think I cut about a 6.5 sort of inch rectangle and just made it as long as this is. And then I had some extra fabric, so then I used that fabric with the stripes going in the opposing direction, and I just love how that turned out. I did add belt loops to this so I could just sort of cinch it like so. But yeah, that is my sort of duster abaya kimono sort of garment. I actually cut out 3 of these on Thursday night, and I will show you the second one, which is almost done. So here we have a poly sort of satiny sort of fabric. Again, I put a bit of interfacing there in the cuff just to make sure that is crisp. I did the same thing by elongating the sleeve as well, and this has so much drape and flow to it. I also added a band to the front panel pieces as well, just because I like the cleaner finish of that. I really don't like turning it in 3/8 of an inch and just stitching down, so I prefer that. When looking for things to make these dusters out of, I was looking for bright, colorful things that I could wear a simple maybe maxi dress under and just toss on top and feel a bit more put together. I like how drapey and swishy this fabric is, so it's a completely different feel to this more cotton structured fabric as well. And I went with a thinner belt, which I think is going to be really nice. This is not complete yet. I still have to fix that. But this is what I was working on right before I left. I also put interfacing down at the bottom to hem that there. And I used my fun serger thread with all those multicolors because it just worked. And because this had stripes, hopefully you can tell, I used the stripes to sort of match it as I was going through and hemming it so that it was even. I'm just really excited about these. I was able to make them in about under 2 hours and 30 minutes, and that is after they were cut. So the actual sewing process took me about 2.5 hours or just under that. So with interfacing them and doing all the various things and all of my various hacks. In the cutting layouts right here for 56 to 60 inch fabric, they have you sort of lay the pieces out like this. I found that with the sizes I was cutting, and again, I started with, I think, a small in the bodice, like the bust section, and then graded out to about a large or even an extra large possibly at the bottom. And I was able to lay the pieces side by side. So I actually laid the back piece with this straight line, which is the center back. I laid that on the fold here and was just able to cut that out. And then I laid the front piece the way that they had it and was able to cut the sleeve out of the fabric up here. So took a quick photo of that while I was cutting it just so I could show you. So I'm going to insert that as well so you can see what I'm talking about. But that honestly worked out for me. And even I think if I were cutting a bigger size, even in the bodice, I think you may still be able to get it side by side using 60-inch fabric. So that's what I did. It worked for me. If you are trying to make this pattern, hopefully it might work for you too. But I found that that allowed me to get this out of maybe a little bit less fabric than I initially intended. As I mentioned, I cut 3 of these out. So the other one that I cut is out of this fabric that I picked up years ago from JoAnn Fabrics. It's almost like an ivory background. Just the cutest little pale blue green sprigs there. I remember picking up that fabric from JoAnn quite a few years ago, and I think over the years, when I've sort of looked at it to figure out what I would want to make out of it, I noticed that the like stark white background with that really ditzy floral print didn't suit me in the way that I would want. So I didn't really see myself making a dress out of it or anything like that. But I figured a really nice duster, even if I wore something that was a bit deeper in color or picked up either that really nice soft blue, which I have quite a few fabrics in that blue color, or picked up on the green and wore that as something, you know, under this duster that could look really nice. It's almost like a double crepe, so it has a really great weight to it also, and it is opaque. So I really like that, and I'm excited to get that made up. I have not worked on that yet. I love how much of an impact this garment makes, and it's very few seams, especially if you omit that back seam. And because I didn't fiddle with like pressing under and, you know, top stitching that edge down, I actually think cutting out a, you know, what do I call this? Like a band? I don't know. A front band for this is the way to go for me. And I think I'll continue to do that if I have enough fabric to do so, and or add bias binding and turn it inside. I think that would be the way that I would prefer to finish the dusters that I make using the S1108 pattern moving forward. Just makes a lot of sense for me, at least. So I'm really happy with the way it turned out, and hopefully you'll see a video and some images of me in its full length. I just absolutely love it. Now, for my conference, I did sort of dress in all me maids for most of the days. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you the things that I packed with me. I don't think I took photos on the daily, and the photos that I do have, I'm with other people, so I'm not going to include those, but I'm gonna show you what I packed. Luckily, most of these makes have already been featured on the channel, so it's more so just to give you an idea of what I sort of gravitate towards when I'm packing for like a trip like this. The conference itself, I was there for 4 days, 3 nights, so I just needed like 4 business casual, business sort of garments. So actually on day 1, I wore this duster, these pants, which are not me made, but these are sort of like vintage trousers that I thrifted years ago, and I paired that with my gable top. So it was all black underneath and this really vibrant duster on top, and that was sort of the day 1 ensemble. Then on day 2, I took with me my lovely S9114 hacked dress. So in this make, I used the bodice of S9114, which is a Mimi G pattern. I made that up as is. It has a one-piece collar with this fun pop of gingham on the back. I'll link a video to the post where I showed you this dress when I first completed it. This fabric is from Mood Fabric online, and I fell in love with it. I love the print of this. So really, really simple sort of button front bodice. And then I added, here's the hack part, I added 2 tiers of gathered skirt, which is basically what the S9114 is, but I did not have the continual button front placket because I didn't have enough fabric and wanted to preserve as much as I could. On day 3, I brought my McCall's dress with me, and this was my first make of 2023 actually. I love this dress. It is also a cotton voile fabric that I picked up from Mood Fabrics online. I will insert the video where I shared the making of this dress as well with you, but it has awesome piping details. It has great black buttons. I did the same thing to the bottom tier here, where I lined that bottom tier in a black cotton bed sheet as well, and that again adds to the weight and I think is just a necessity for me when I'm working with cotton voile. I want to make sure that the bottom hem is heavy enough to really allow the dress to lay the way that I want it to. I love my pattern placement with this dress, and yeah, folks really enjoyed all the springtime makes, which was nice. Today was the last day of the conference and I presented today, so I wore my white button-up shirt that I recently made with the half circle skirt that I showed you in my very last video. And I love this half circle skirt, and I need to make more half circle skirts because they are my Jimmy Jam. And this maxi length, it was gorgeous. This is also fabric that I had picked up from JoAnn's in the clearance section years ago, and I was finally able to make it up. And the satin just catches the sheen. It blew in the wind beautifully because it's quite a weighty material, and I absolutely love it. It was not extremely difficult to put together, so I definitely want to make more. It was great to be able to wear something me made every single day, which is absolutely lovely. While I was on my way down to the conference, I stopped by a JoAnn's that was actually having a closing sale. Now, when I hear store closing, you know, everything must go, and you see all of these signs, I was definitely super excited to get inside. I thought that the deals were going to be phenomenal. But unfortunately, honestly, when I got in there, a lot of the fabric was just 50% off of its standard price. I thought that maybe it would be 50% off of, you know, like the sale price. I had gotten there. I was in the JoAnn fabric store on Saturday. So in most JoAnn's, that was a sale day. So at my local JoAnn's, they were having sales and stuff running. So I was under the impression that maybe it would be like 50% off an additional, right, of the sale prices. But it was just 50% off of the regular price, which is like a regular weekend sale. I mean, most days you can kind of go into JoAnn's and either use a coupon, or if you go over the weekends, they often have a select group at least of the fabrics for 50 or 40 or 60% off. So it wasn't that huge of a sale in my opinion, and a lot of the things that were really reduced, where maybe they had reduced the ticket price and then you get an additional, let's say, you know, 50 or 60% off, were things that I didn't necessarily need. I was hoping to find some interfacing, and they had like wiped out that interfacing section, and it was just the fusible fleece and other types of interfacing that I don't necessarily use, more craft related interfacings. So I didn't need that. What I did end up getting from JoAnn's, however, is this rib knit fabric. So it is this blue fabric here. Let me see if the light is going to show it. So it's a really nice substantial rib knit, and it is in the Navy Ink Ottoman rib knit. That's the name of it. So I really want to make a bomber jacket, and I find that a lot of the rib knits that I have in my stash are not like substantial rib knits that I would want to put on like the cuffs or the bottom hem of a bomber jacket. So I've been looking for navy rib knit, and at my local JoAnn's, for whatever reason, they have an assortment within their like athletic section fabrics of rib knit, like this really hefty weight of it. But I have not seen navy for whatever reason. They have like olive greens and a ton of different colors, but not navy blue. Even this navy is a bit more pale than what I want. I want like a true navy, like inky, and this doesn't really give me that to a T, but I figured it was a decent color, right? If you see it without the light washing it out. So I think it will work for what I want. I got 2 yards of it because in the closing sale, you had to get at least 2 yards, but that was honestly the only thing I walked away with. Another type of store that I like to visit when I'm traveling are thrift stores. I just like to see what are in some of the thrift stores in other areas. So I did pass by a Goodwill and I got 2 things. The first thing I got was this tablecloth here, and it has this gorgeous embroidery detail on it. Let me show you the front. I've been seeing a lot of people make like awesome shirts with embroidered cottons that they pick up. And I just thought that this was gorgeous. So I want to show you that. So it has that embroidery detail in these various sections along the fabric, like this. Is it a circle? It's more like an oval, okay? My hope is to be able to utilize this fabric to possibly get, I think, a shirt out of it, like a button-up shirt or something like that, or just any sort of blouse. And this is So April blouse. There's a challenge going on this month, and I love making a blouse, so I figure if I am able to, I might get to it and make a blouse most likely out of this. And then I picked up a duvet cover, a linen duvet cover. Let me show you the color. Ah, it's like a really, really warm, like, I don't want it to be showing up as orange. It's not orange. It's like a brownie, like a brown sort of color. Let me see if I can put it against my skin. So like that. But yeah, it's linen. It's soft. I cannot, this is going straight in the wash. But yeah, it's big. I don't know what size it is. After I wash it, I'm going to see what size it is, because honestly, a linen duvet cover in this color could also be just amazing to have as bedding. But my initial idea was to use it as fabric, obviously, but it is maybe not a good color for me, possibly. So if I could just leave it as bedding, depending on the size, if it would fit, you know, either a king or a queen size bed, then I might leave it be and just wash it and utilize it. But the linen has just softened over time, and it's gorgeous. So that's what I took with me to my conference, and that is my most recent make, and something, as I shared, that I have on the sewing table more immediately, and I hope to kind of share with you next week what else I'm working on. Let me know if you have made S1108, or if you plan to make it. I think it would make a great beach cover up, and or if you're celebrating Ramadan and you want to go to the mosque and need something to throw on really quickly, I think these are gorgeous as like dusters, abayas, and things like that. So I hope that you give it a try, or let me know how you like it down below. Have a wonderful day. Stay creative, friends. Bye-bye.